The monsoon rains of Caloria hammered against the ancient stone walls of Cadora Fortress with relentless fury. Amber torchlight flickered across the wet flagstones of the central courtyard, casting elongated shadows that seemed to dance with each gust of wind. EMTT done. Emmett, to his friends back in the Terran colonies, squinted through the downpour as his delivery shuttle settled onto the landing pad with a hiss of hydraulics. Another routine drop, he muttered to himself, activating his translator implant with a subtle tap behind his ear. The small device hummed to life, ready to convert the complex syllables of Caldorian speech into something his human brain could comprehend. The cargo bay doors slid open with a mechanical groan, revealing stacks of sealed containers, medicine tech components, and luxury goods from Earth's outer colonies. EMTT had been making these runs for 5 standard years now, hopping from world to world, never staying long enough to call any place home. Just the way he liked it. A delegation emerged from beneath the sheltered archway of the fortress, led by a tall, slender figure, whose skin gleamed a deep cerulean blue in the torchlight. Lady Era of House Cadora moved with liquid grace, her silver hair flowing like mercury around sharp, angular features. Behind her stood 6 women of similar complexion, 5 handmaidens in simple white garments, and beside them, an imposing figure that could only be described as a brute. EMTT had seen Caldorian warriors before, but this one, Dirac, he would later learn, stood nearly 8 feet tall, his muscular frame encased in ceremonial armor, etched with symbols of House Cadora. A curved blade hung at his side, its jeweled hilt catching the amber light. Terran. Lady Era's voice cut through the storm's roar, her translator rendering her words with a melodic accent. You bring the supplies as contracted. EMTT gave a respectful nod, careful to maintain the precise angle demanded by Caldorian custom. Too shallow would be disrespectful, too deep would imply servitude. All accounted for, Lady Era. The manifest is ready for your inspection. He descended the ramp datapad in hand raindrops, immediately soaking through his flight suit. The courtyard smelled of wet stone, and something else, a spicy alien scent, that emanated from the ceremonial braziers positioned around the perimeter. Lady Era took the datapad with long, 6-fingered hands. Her eyes, solid amber, with no visible pupils, scanned the list with practiced efficiency. Behind her, Dirac maintained a vigilant stance, one hand resting on his blade's hilt. The medical supplies are most welcome, she said, returning the device. The southern provinces suffered greatly this season. EMTT nodded again. Happy to help. Your payment transfer cleared before departure. A servant approached, bearing a tray with several goblets, filled with a shimmering liquid that seemed to glow from within. Lady Era took one, and gestured for EMTT to do the same. A tradition, she explained. We honor successful trade with Dora's finest distillation. EMTT accepted the drink, noting its pleasant warmth against his rain-chilled fingers. He'd sampled alien beverages before, it was one of the perks of interstellar delivery work, but something about this particular offering gave him pause. The liquid inside seemed alive, somehow swirling of its own accord. Your health, Lady Era, he said, raising the goblet in what he hoped was an appropriate gesture. Her lips curved upward. And yours, Terran. The liquid burned pleasantly down his throat, leaving a tingling sensation in its wake. EMTT couldn't help the appreciative sound that escaped him. That's remarkable. Smoother than I expected, with hints of... He paused, searching for earth comparisons, cinnamon, and something like citrus. The courtyard fell silent. Even the rain seemed to pause. Dirac stepped forward, his massive frame blocking the torchlight. You dare to comment on Lady Era's private reserve without permission? He growled each word like gravel. You dishonor our house. EMTT's blood ran cold. He'd studied Caldorian customs extensively during his courier training, but clearly he'd missed something crucial. I meant no disrespect. Silence. Dirac's hand closed around his blade's hilt. By the ancient laws of Caloria, such an insult can only be answered with blood. Lady Era raised a delicate hand. The law is clear, Terran. When a guest dishonors the host's offering, the host's champion must defend the house's honor. Her voice betrayed no emotion. You may withdraw your words and accept death, or stand and fight. EMTT's mind raced. Death for complimenting a drink seemed extreme, but he knew Kaldorian culture placed enormous value on ritual and honor. His translator implant wasn't malfunctioning, this was really happening. I choose to stand. He said the words tumbling out before he could fully consider their implications. Death didn't seem like a better alternative. A murmur rippled through the gathered servants and guards. Lady Era's expression remained impassive, but something flickered in those amber eyes. Surprise, perhaps. So be it, she declared. The combat circle shall be formed. Guards moved swiftly, positioning torches in a wide ring around the central courtyard. The rain continued to fall, making the stone slick and treacherous. EMTT fought to keep his breathing steady as Durak stepped into the circle, drawing his curved blade with theatrical slowness. I have no weapon, EMTT pointed out, glancing around at the impassive faces. An elderly Kaldorian, his blue skin faded to a pale azure, with age, stepped forward, bearing a similar curved sword. The challenged may use the ancestral blade of House Kadora, he announced. It has tasted the blood of many who dishonored us. The weight of the weapon felt foreign in EMTT's hands. He'd had basic combat training during his stint with the Terran Merchant Marines, but nothing that prepared him for ritual combat on an alien world. The blade was heavier than it looked, with perfect balance. Begin, Lady Era commanded. Durak didn't hesitate. He charged forward with surprising speed for his size, bringing his blade down in a powerful arc that would have split EMTT from shoulder to hip had it connected. EMTT sidestepped, nearly losing his footing on the rain-slicked stones. You'll die slowly, Terran, Durak snarled, pivoting for another strike. EMTT didn't waste breath responding. He needed every ounce of concentration to stay alive. The rain pelted his face as he circled warily, looking for an opening in Durak's aggressive style. The Kaldorian champion attacked again, a horizontal slash, aimed at EMTT's midsection. EMTT parried the impact, sending shockwaves up his arms. Durak was incredibly strong. A direct block would eventually break EMTT's wrists. A strategy formed in EMTT's mind. Durak relied on power and intimidation. Each swing committed his full weight, leaving him momentarily vulnerable if he missed. EMTT began to move differently, adopting a fluid defensive style, letting Durak's blade whistle past him by centimeters. The courtyard had fallen silent, except for the sound of rain and labored breathing. Even Lady Era leaned forward, her silver hair plastered to her blue skin by the downpour. Durak's frustration grew with each missed strike. His attacks became wilder, less controlled. Stand still and die with honor, he bellowed. EMTT saw his opportunity when Durak raised his blade for a powerful overhead strike. Instead of retreating, he stepped forward into the attack, ducking under Durak's extended arms. In one smooth motion, he brought his own blade upward in a devastating diagonal slash. The sound was sickening metal, slicing through armor, flesh, and bone. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, horrifically, Durak's massive body separated along the line of EMTT's, cut from hip to opposite shoulder. Blood, mixed with rain, creating pools of amber-tinged liquid on the courtyard stones. Gasps erupted from the spectators. Lady Era's hand flew to her mouth. EMTT stood frozen, the bloodied sword still extended, unable to believe what he had just done. The elderly Kaldorian stepped forward once more, his voice carrying across the courtyard. The combat is concluded. The Terran stands victorious. He turned to face Lady Era and her handmaidens, who had drawn closer together. By the ancient law of Kadora, when an outsider defeats a house champion in ritual combat, the females of the house become his concubines. EMTT's translator implant must have malfunctioned. I'm sorry, what? The elder repeated himself, each word distinct and unmistakable. Lady Era and her 5 handmaidens are now bound to you by law. To reject them would bring greater dishonor than the initial offense. EMTT looked to Lady Era, expecting outrage, but her expression was unreadable. This can't be right, he protested. I don't want concubines. I just want to complete my delivery and leave. The code is absolute. Lady Era spoke, her voice steady, despite the circumstances. We are bound to you until you release us, or death separates us. Such is our law. EMTT's mind reeled. In the span of minutes, he'd gone from delivery pilot to duelist to whatever this was. There must be some alternative. Prefect Norland approaches, a guard called from the watchtower. Lady Era's composed facade cracked, revealing genuine alarm. We must leave immediately, she said to EMTT. Norland has coveted House Cadora for years. If he finds you here with Durack dead, he will execute you and claim us regardless of the law. Before EMTT could respond, she was issuing rapid orders to her handmaidens. They moved with practiced efficiency, gathering small bundles that had apparently been prepared for just such an emergency. My shuttle, EMTT began. Is our only hope, Lady Era finished. We must reach the spaceport. The small group moved swiftly through the fortress's hidden passages, emerging near the rear gate where a covered transport waited. EMTT found himself bundled inside with Lady Era and her 5 handmaidens whose names he still didn't know. The vehicle lurched forward into the stormy night. Someone want to explain what's happening? EMTT demanded, pressed uncomfortably between 2 silent women. Lady Era's eyes gleamed in the darkness. Prefect Norland controls this region. He has long desired to absorb House Cadora into his holdings, primarily by forcing a marriage with me. With Durack dead, and you as our new protector, his claim is threatened. I never agreed to be anyone's protector, EMTT pointed out. And yet here we are. One of the handmaidens spoke for the first time, her voice carrying a hint of amusement despite the situation. The transport wound its way down treacherous mountain roads, the driver navigating by memory through the downpour. EMTT caught occasional glimpses of the sprawling city below, its bioluminescent structures glowing like earthbound stars. I'm Lena, the handmaiden who had spoken, introduced herself. These are Tara, Miradora, and Ellen. Each woman nodded as her name was mentioned. EMTT done. Most people call me Emmett. He felt absurd, making introductions under the circumstances, but clung to the normalcy of it. A strange name, Tara observed. She was the tallest of the handmaidens with intricate markings along her arms that EMTT now realized indicated some military training. Says the blue woman with 6 fingers. He couldn't help retorting. A sound like wind chimes filled the transport Caldorian laughter. Their levity was short-lived. The transport slowed as they approached the spaceport's security checkpoint. Through rain-streaked windows, EMTT could see multiple guards wearing Prefect Norland's insignia. They're checking all vehicles, the driver warned. Lady Era exchanged glances with her handmaidens. We cannot risk capture. There's another way, Dora suggested. Through the merchant quarter. I know someone who can help. The transport veered away from the main approach, winding through increasingly narrow streets until it could go no further. We continue on foot, Dora said, pulling a hood over her distinctive silver hair. They moved as inconspicuously as possible through crowded market streets, the rain providing welcome cover. EMTT noticed how the handmaidens had positioned themselves, Tara and Mira, on the perimeter alert for threats. Lena and Ellen flanking Lady Era, Dora leading with confident steps. The someone turned out to be a grizzled human male, operating a small Xenoan on the spaceport's periphery. His weathered face registered surprise when he saw the bedraggled group at his door. Dora girl that you... His accent marked him as from Earth's outer colonies. We need shelter, Harding, she said without preamble. And away to the landing pads. Harding ushered them inside, bolting the door behind them. The inn was empty of guests, its common room dim and warm. "Trouble with the prefect again?" he asked, appraising the group with shrewd eyes that lingered on EMTT. "This is EMTT Dunn," Dora introduced. "He's our new champion." Understanding dawned on Harding's face. "Dirac." "Dead," Lady Era confirmed. Harding whistled low. "That complicates things." He turned to EMTT. "Your ship registered at the main pad." EMTT nodded. "Artemis, standard courier class." "I'll send my boy to check on it," Harding said, motioning to a young Caldorian assistant. "Meanwhile, get yourselves dried off. There are rooms upstairs." While they waited for news, Lady Era insisted on a cleansing ritual. "It is necessary after combat," she explained to EMTT, "especially when blood has been spilled." EMTT found himself in a stone chamber, heated by underground thermal vents. Steam rose from a central pool, fed by natural springs. The handmaidens busied themselves preparing oils and cloths. "I can clean up on my own," EMTT protested, when he realized they intended to stay. "That would dishonor us further," Lena explained gently. "The ritual requires proper observance." Uncomfortable, but seeing no alternative that wouldn't cause offense, EMTT submitted to the strange ceremony. The handmaidens worked in silence, applying scented oils before guiding him into the heated pool. Lady Era herself remained at the room's edge, overseeing but not participating. The ritual was unexpectedly soothing, the hot water easing muscles tense from combat and flight. EMTT began to relax despite himself, allowing the women to complete their tasks without further protest. "Why are you all so calm about this?" he finally asked. "About becoming concubines to a stranger." Mira, the quietest of the handmaidens, spoke up. "We have prepared for many possibilities since House Kadora fell into disfavor. This is not the worst outcome. Being claimed by Norland would be far worse." Ellen added, her voice barely audible over the bubbling water. Lady Era approached the pool's edge, kneeling so that her eyes were level with EMTT's. "You must understand," she said carefully, "that while the law names us concubines, the reality can be shaped by the one who holds the claim. Some champions treat their acquisitions as property, others as protected wards. And some," Lena added with meaningful emphasis, "as equals in all things." Before EMTT could respond, Harding burst into the chamber, his face grim. "Bad news. Your ship's been sabotaged, fuel lines cut, navigation system corrupted. Norland's work, no doubt." EMTT swore, rising from the pool. The handmaidens quickly wrapped him in drying cloths. "How bad?" "Unrepairable with local resources," Harding confirmed. "But I might have an alternative. Got an old emergency shuttle I've been fixing up. It's small, but it'll break atmosphere." "Why would you help us?" EMTT asked, suspiciously. Harding's weathered face cracked into a smile. 20 years in the Earth Marines before I settled here. Still got a soft spot for a human in trouble. Besides, his expression darkened. I've seen what happens to houses that fall under Norland's protection. It ain't pretty." As night deepened, the group gathered in Harding's private quarters to plan their escape. The old Marine had procured star charts and schematics of the emergency shuttle. "It's tight, but it'll fit all 7 of you," he explained. "Basic life support, enough fuel to reach the Terran outpost in the Rigel system. Norland will have watchers at every spaceport exit," Terra pointed out. Harding nodded. "That's why we created diversion. I've got friends who can help with that." Lady Era, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke. "Before we proceed further, there is something you must know." She reached into a small pouch at her waist and withdrew an object that glowed with inner light, a crystalline structure that pulsed like a heartbeat. "The heart of Kadora," she said, holding it reverently. "The ancestral artifact of our house. It bonds the keeper myself to our chosen mate." Her amber eyes fixed on EMTT. In ancient times it was merely symbolic, but over generations it has developed properties. EMTT stared at the glowing crystal. What kind of properties? It responds to genetic compatibility, she explained. And it has never glowed so brightly as it does now in your presence. As if to confirm her words, the crystal's pulsing increased its light, intensifying, until it illuminated the entire room with a warm, amber glow. That's why Norland wants you, EMTT realized aloud. Not just for your house, but for that. Lady Era nodded. He believes possessing the heart will legitimize his claim to our territories. But the heart chooses its own path. EMTT felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. This was no longer about surviving a cultural misunderstanding. It had become something far more complex. We'll need to split up, Harding decided, after studying the spaceport schematics. 3 groups approaching the shuttle from different directions. Harder to intercept that way. The plan was quickly formulated. EMTT would escort Lena and Tara through the service tunnels. Dora would guide Mira and Ellen through the merchant quarter. Lady Era, carrying the heart, would take the most direct route with Harding himself as escort. Dawn departure, Harding confirmed. Get some rest while you can. Rest proved elusive. EMTT paced the small chamber, allocated to him mind racing with the day's events. A knock at his door revealed Lena, her expression troubled. May I enter? She asked formally. EMTT stepped aside. What's wrong? Lady Era wishes me to explain certain things, Lena said, perching nervously on the room's only chair. About the heart and what it means for us all. Over the next hour, Lena revealed the complex truth behind the heart of Khadora. It wasn't merely a symbol of authority. It was a semi-sentient artifact that had evolved alongside the genetic line of House Khadora for thousands of years. It formed a psychic bond between the house leader and their chosen partner, eventually extending to include all members of the household. So when it glows near me, EMTT began. It recognizes compatibility on a level beyond physical, Lena confirmed. The heart has chosen you whether by chance or destiny as its ideal match. And if we're separated from it, Lena's expression grew somber. Lady Era would weaken over time. The heart sustains her in ways we don't fully understand. And Norland knows this. It's why he's so determined to possess both. Dawn came too quickly. The group gathered in Harding's courtyard, each now armed with weapons from the former Marine's personal collection. EMTT felt the unfamiliar weight of a Terran pulse pistol at his hip, alongside the Kaldorian blade he'd used to defeat Dirac. Comms check, Harding instructed, distributing small earpieces. Channel secure range limited to half a kilometer. They synchronized timepieces. The diversion, a small explosion at the fuel depot on the spaceport's western edge, would occur exactly 30 minutes after they departed. Each group would use the confusion to reach the emergency shuttle's berth. If any group is intercepted, Harding warned, continue to the objective. No heroics. EMTT caught Lady Era's gaze across the courtyard. Something unspoken passed between them, concern perhaps, or something deeper that he wasn't ready to name. Move out, Harding ordered. EMTT led Lena and Tara through the service tunnels as planned. The underground passages smelled of machine oil and alien spices, dimly lit by bioluminescent fungi that clung to the damp walls. Tara moved with the silent precision of a trained soldier, while Lena monitored a small device that detected energy signatures. Patrol ahead, Tara whispered, holding up a hand. They pressed themselves against the tunnel wall as a security drone hummed past its sensors, sweeping the passage with invisible beams. When it had gone, they continued more cautiously. They were nearing the shuttle's berth when Lena's device emitted a soft warning tone. Energy spike, she murmured, studying the readings. Multiple signatures converging on Lady Era's position. EMTT's blood ran cold. Norland found them. We should continue to the shuttle, Tara said, though her expression betrayed her concern. EMTT shook his head. No, we go back for them. That contradicts the plan, Tara pointed out. I don't care. EMTT checked his weapons. Lady Era has the heart. Without her, none of this matters. He tapped his earpiece. Dora, change of plans. Lady Era's group has been intercepted. Converge on their last known position. Dora's voice came back tense. Acknowledged. Mira, Ellen, and I are repositioning. They navigated the tunnels at speed, emerging into the spaceport's main concourse, just as the promised diversion detonated. A plume of smoke rose from the Western Fuel Depot, alarms blaring throughout the facility. Security forces rushed toward the explosion, creating the chaos they'd hoped for. Lena's device led them to a private hangar near the administrative complex. They're inside, she confirmed, studying the readings. Multiple hostiles. Tara drew a slender blade. I count 4 guards at the entrance, more inside likely. They were joined moments later by Dora, Mira, and Ellen, who had circled around from the opposite direction. Service entrance on the east side, Dora reported. Minimal security. EMTT quickly formulated a plan. Tara, Mira, create a distraction at the main entrance. The rest of us will enter through the service door and locate Lady Era. The hangar's service entrance was secured by a single guard, easily neutralized by Dora's surprising proficiency with pressure points. Inside, they found themselves in a storage area filled with shipping containers and maintenance equipment. This way, Lena whispered her device, indicating a path through the maze of containers. They emerged onto a catwalk overlooking the hangar's main floor. Below, a tableau of tension unfolded. Lady Era stood proudly despite being surrounded by armed guards. The heart pulsed visibly through the fabric of her pouch. Harding knelt nearby, blood trickling from a wound on his temple. A tall Kaldorian, in elaborate ceremonial armor, paced before them, Prefect Norland, EMTT presumed. His blue skin was darker than Era's almost indigo, with intricate scarification across his visible flesh. Your defiance is futile, Norland was saying, his voice carrying in the cavernous space. Surrender the heart willingly, and I will allow your handmaidens to live. The heart cannot be surrendered, Lady Era replied calmly. It chooses its own path. Norland's laugh echoed harshly. Superstitious nonsense. The heart is merely a tool of power, and I intend to wield it. EMTT signaled to the others. Dora and Ellen would circle around to free Harding, while he and Lena created a distraction to draw away some of the guards. Just as they prepared to move, a commotion at the main entrance announced Tara and Mira's diversionary attack. Norland's head snapped toward the sound. Find them, he ordered several guards. EMTT seized the moment, vaulting over the catwalk railing and landing, with a roll that brought him to his feet directly in Norland's path. Looking for me, he challenged, drawing the Kaldorian blade. Norland's eyes widened momentarily, before narrowing in recognition. The Terran upstart who slew Dirac. His own blade appeared in his hand as if by magic. A fortunate accident, no doubt. Let's find out, EMTT suggested, settling into a defensive stance. Around them, chaos erupted. Tara and Mira had breached the main entrance, engaging multiple guards. Dora and Ellen had reached Harding, freeing him from his restraints. Lena was making her way toward Lady Era, navigating through the confusion. Norland attacked with a speed and precision that made Dirac's style seem crude by comparison. His blade wove intricate patterns in the air, forcing EMTT into a purely defensive posture. Unlike the rain-slicked courtyard of their previous encounter, the hangar floor offered secure footing, allowing Norland to fully display his superior technique. You are outmatched, Terran, Norland taunted as his blade sliced a shallow cut across EMTT's forearm. Dirac was brawn without finesse. I am both. EMTT didn't waste breath responding. He focused on survival, looking for patterns in Norland's attack's weaknesses in his seemingly perfect form. The prefect was right. EMTT was outmatched in skill, but desperation lent him speed and clarity. Across the hangar, Lady Era had broken free of her captors with Lena's help. The heart pulsed more rapidly in her hands, its glow intensifying as if responding to the conflict around it. The heart, she called to EMTT. Its energy flows through the bond. Use it. EMTT didn't understand what she meant, but something resonated within him at her words. The crystals pulsing seemed to synchronize with his heartbeat, and suddenly he could sense new possibilities, angles of attack and defense that hadn't been apparent before. Norland noticed the change in EMTT's movements and redoubled his efforts, his blade becoming a blur of lethal intent. "The heart is mine by right," he snarled. "It's chosen otherwise." EMTT countered, finding a rhythm, now meeting Norland's attacks with increasingly confident parries. The hangar had become a battlefield. Tara and Mira fought back-to-back against multiple opponents. Harding, despite his injury, had acquired a weapon and was holding his own. Dora, Lena, and Ellen had formed a protective circle around Lady Era, who held the heart aloft, its light bathing them all. EMTT felt something shift within him, a clarity of purpose, an absolute certainty that transcended his earlier confusion. These women were not prizes won in combat. They were individuals with their own strengths and agency, bound together by circumstance and now by choice. With this realization came new strength. EMTT channeled his Marine combat training, his years of navigating hostile territories, and something else, an energy that seemed to flow from the heart itself, through Lady Era, and into him. Norland sensed the change, and faltered momentarily, just long enough for EMTT to execute a disarming technique he'd learned years ago. The prefect's blade clattered to the floor, and EMTT's own came to rest against Norland's throat. "Yield," EMTT demanded. Norland's eyes burned with hatred. "Never!" "Then die knowing you failed," EMTT said, coldly pressing the blade's edge against blue skin. "EMTT." Lady Era's voice cut through his focus. She had approached the heart, glowing between them. "Not like this. Not with hate." EMTT hesitated, then withdrew his blade slightly. "He'll never stop pursuing you, pursuing us." "There are alternatives to death," she said quietly. "The heart knows." Understanding dawned in Norland's eyes, followed by genuine fear. "No." Lady Era held the heart closer. "By the ancient law of Khadora, I bind you to your oath. Speak it now, Prefect Norland." Compelled by some force, EMTT couldn't see. Norland's voice emerged strangled, but clear. "I renounce all claim to House Khadora, its members, its territories, and its heart from this day until the stars burn out." The heart pulsed once brilliantly, then settled to a steady glow. Lady Era stepped back. "It is done. The heart has witnessed your oath. Breaking it would destroy you utterly." EMTT lowered his blade, completely watching as Norland's face contorted with rage and defeat. "Get out," he told the prefect, "while you still can." Around them, the fighting had ceased. Norland's guards, seeing their leader defeated, had surrendered or fled. Tara and Mira were binding the wounded, while Harding secured the exits. "We need to move," Harding urged. "More security will arrive soon." They made their way swiftly to the emergency shuttles, berthed Lady Era and EMTT at the center of their formation. The small craft awaited its ramp, extended as if in welcome. "She'll get you to Rigel," Harding promised, running a hand along the shuttle's scratched hull. "From there, you can arrange transport to Earth space." "You're not coming?" EMTT asked, surprised. Harding shook his head. "My life is here now. Someone's got to keep an eye on Norland." He pressed a data chip into EMTT's hand. "Coordinates to safe harbors if you need them. Good luck, Marine." The shuttle's interior was cramped but functional. Designed for emergency evacuation, it had basic acceleration couches for all 7 occupants and a small control cabin. EMTT took the pilot's seat, running through pre-flight checks with practiced efficiency. "Auxiliary power online. Life support nominal. Navigation systems functional barely." He glanced back at his passengers. "Strap in. This won't be the smoothest ride." As the shuttle lifted off, alarm klaxons began to sound across the spaceport. Security vehicles converged on their position, but too late, the small craft was already accelerating toward the upper atmosphere. "Pursuit vessels launching." Lena reported from the co-pilot's seat, monitoring the rudimentary sensor array. 3. No 4 ships. EMTT pushed the engines beyond safety margins, the shuttle vibrating dangerously as it punched through cloud layers. They're bigger, but we're lighter. If we can break atmosphere before they catch us. The pursuit ships gained steadily, their superior engines closing the distance. Warning shots flashed past the viewport, uncomfortably close. I can bypass the safety protocols, Tara suggested, examining the engine controls. Give us a temporary boost. Do it, EMTT ordered, executing evasive maneuvers that strained the shuttle's frame. Tara's modifications produced an immediate surge of power, pressing them all back into their seats with crushing force. The pursuing ships fell behind as the shuttle screamed toward space. Entering thermosphere, EMTT announced through gritted teeth. Hang on. The shuttle shuddered violently as it transitioned from atmosphere to vacuum. Warning lights flashed across the control panel systems, overloading from the strain. But they had achieved their objective. The vast emptiness of space opened before them, the pursuit ships now distant specks below. Setting course for Rigel, EMTT said, allowing himself a moment of relief. We're clear. Lady Era unstrapped from her acceleration couch and approached the cockpit, the heart of Khadora cradled in her hands. Its glow had intensified in the darkness of space, pulsating with what EMTT now recognized as 7 distinct rhythms, one for each of them. There is something you should experience, she said softly. Now that we are safely away. EMTT engaged the autopilot and turned to face her. What is it? The true bond of the heart, she explained. It is not merely symbolic, nor is it about ownership. It is communion. She placed the heart in the center of the small cabin. Its light expanded, enveloping them all in a warm, amber radiance. EMTT felt a strange sensation, as if his consciousness were simultaneously expanding and being infiltrated. Suddenly, he wasn't alone in his mind. He could feel Lady Era's presence, her ancient pride, her fears for her house, her growing admiration for him. And beyond her, the handmaidens, Lena's analytical intelligence, Tara's warrior spirit, Mira's quiet strength, Dora's resourcefulness, Ellen's empathic nature. They were all there, distinct, yet united, their thoughts and emotions mingling with his own. This is the true purpose of the heart. Lady Era's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Not to enslave, but to unite. To create a family of choice rather than blood. The experience lasted only moments, but when the light receded and EMTT found himself back in his own singular consciousness, something had fundamentally changed. He understood these women now, not as abstractions or cultural curiosities, but as individuals with whom he shared an ineffable connection. That was, he struggled to find words. The beginning, Lady Era finished for him. The heart has chosen, and so have we. The journey to Rigel took 3 days in the small shuttle. They took turns at the controls, sharing stories and teaching each other about their respective cultures. EMTT learned that each of the handmaidens had specialized skills. Lena was a xenotech expert. Tara, a combat specialist. Mira, a healer. Dora, a former intelligence operative. And Ellen, an empath with limited telepathic abilities. So not exactly helpless concubines, EMTT observed with amusement. House Khadora has never valued weakness, Lady Era explained. My handmaidens are chosen for their exceptional abilities. Why maintain the fiction then? Tradition has its uses, she said cryptically. Especially when it leads others to underestimate you. At the Terran outpost on Rigel, EMTT used his courier credentials to secure temporary accommodations and begin arrangements for repairs to the Artemis. The station administrator was skeptical about the group's unusual composition, but knew better than to question a registered pilot's personal affairs. It'll take at least 6 months to get the parts shipped here, the dockmaster informed EMTT after inspecting the sabotage report. Unless you want to head back to Earth and handle it there. EMTT consulted with Lady Era and the others. Earth might be our best option, he suggested. My company has facilities there and I've got some credits saved. Enough to get us settled until we figure out our next move. Our home is with you now, Lady Era said simply. The heart has made its choice. 6 months later, on a small property outside Seattle, EMTT stood at the window of a modest house watching rain that reminded him of that fateful night on Caloria. Behind him, Lady Era cradled their newborn daughter, blue-skinned with a shock of dark hair, the first of a new genetic line. Hope, Era, had named her in the Terran tradition, rather than the complex Kaldorian naming conventions. The household had settled into a comfortable rhythm. Lena had found work with a xenotech firm, her expertise highly valued. Tara provided security training for private clients. Mira's healing knowledge had earned her an apprenticeship with a medical researcher. Dora's intelligence background made her valuable to several agencies. Ellen worked with traumatized children, her empathic abilities bringing comfort where words failed. And Lady Era, no longer a lady in title, but still regal in bearing, had become EMTT's partner, in every sense their bond strengthened by the heart that now resided in a place of honor in their home. The heart itself had changed, growing to accommodate the expanding family. Its glow now encompassed 7 distinct rhythms, with an 8th, smaller pulse developing alongside Hope's rapid heartbeat. EMTT felt arms encircle his waist, Dora coming to stand beside him at the window. "Penny for your thoughts, champion," she teased. He smiled, covering her hands with his own. "Just thinking about how one mistake with alien etiquette changed everything." "For the better, I hope." EMTT turned to face the room. Era sat in a comfortable chair, nursing Hope. Lena and Tara were engaged in a good-natured argument about propulsion systems. Mira tended the small indoor garden of medicinal plants they'd established. Ellen played a Kaldorian string instrument, its haunting notes filling the house. "Beyond anything I could have imagined," he admitted. Later that night, as the household slept, EMTT sat alone with the heart watching its gentle pulsation. He'd come to understand it better over the months, not as a mystical artifact, but as a semi-sentient, symbiotic organism that had evolved alongside the Dora lineage for millennia. "You knew what you were doing all along, didn't you?" he murmured to it. The heart's glow intensified briefly, as if in acknowledgement. EMTT shook his head with a smile. "A cosmic matchmaker. Who would have thought?" He reflected on the journey that had brought them here from an accidental insult to a duel he never wanted, from unwanted concubines to beloved family. The heart hadn't forced this outcome. It had merely recognized possibilities that none of them could have seen. Outside, Earth's rain continued to fall, so different from the monsoons of Caloria, yet somehow familiar. EMTT Dunn, once a solitary courier drifting between worlds, had found his place at last, at the center of a family forged by law combat, and ultimately by choice. The heart pulsed contentedly, in the darkness its work complete.